You only live once. Take a risk, trust your gut, and live a life you're proud of. When you're an 85-year-old grandpa and all of your grandkids and great-grandkids and kids are around and they say, "Grandpa, tell us about your life," what kind of story are you going to tell? I wanted a story of adventure. I wanted a story where my grandkids and my kids and whoever else comes after me goes, "That dude put his fucking balls on the line." Undressed limited series podcast discussing the book. We're discussing chapter 2 and the chapter 2 field guide. So chapter 2 is past the idea and pitching the idea and all of the risks and the fears associated with that, all the highs, all the lows. And so chapter 2 is where I go in and I'm cold calling grocery stores. I pitch the product to a salad dressing buyer. He loves it. I go and pitch it again. He loves it. They give me food manufacturing paperwork. And now I have to live into the bullshit that I've been telling people, that I'm a world famous food manufacturer, and decide how much money I want to be spending, how much risk I want to take, and whether or not I'm going to move forward with this dream of mine. And so, field guide, what you need to know. You only live once. Take a risk. Trust your gut. Live a life you are proud of. And so what that really boils down to is chasing your dreams and being okay with failure. It is the quintessential belief or the fundamental ethos of Teddy Roosevelt's Man in the Arena. So often I think fear paralyzes everybody into analysis paralysis. Fear is a liar. And in reality, what we should be doing is failing fast, failing hard, learning from our mistakes, and moving forward. And so the reason I say trust the gut, right? You only live once, take a risk, trust your gut, and live a life you're proud of. When I was younger, there was a example. It said, it's the rocking chair test. When you're an 85-year-old grandpa or great-grandpa sitting on your front porch and all of your grandkids and great-grandkids and kids are around and they say, "Grandpa, tell us about your life." What kind of story are you going to tell? How interesting is that story going to be? Is it going to be, went to college, got a job I didn't really like, stayed there because I made kind of enough money, managed my bills accordingly, retired, went to Florida and died? That's not very exciting. And so when I started thinking about what I was going to do and what kind of story I wanted to tell the future generations, I wanted a story of adventure. I wanted a story where my grandkids and my kids and whoever else comes after me goes, "That dude put his fucking balls on the line and changed his stars." The gut component's really important because your brain is always going to try and rationalize or talk your soul out of doing wild shit because your brain wants to survive. Your heart hopes everything goes well and wants happiness and joy and really hope everybody does what's right. Your gut will tell you when it's time to take a risk, when it's time to move forward, or when it's time to fight. So if you can manage your emotions properly and tune in to your gut, you're going to be very, very successful. Next field guide lesson, what you need to know. Trust your basic ass knowledge. I did not know what the Tessie Mae's brand was going to end up being. I didn't know if I was going to be able to make it cool or not. I knew that salad dressing wasn't cool. I knew it wasn't sexy. I knew it wasn't fun. But I also knew it sucked. And I knew no one cared about it. And I knew that all the brands of salad dressing were not fun or cool and nobody cared about. You have Hidden Valley Ranch, and that's about it. And so when I started thinking about whether or not I was willing to commit to building a salad dressing brand, I just went to the grocery store and I watched people. I watched people they would pick up a dressing, no relevance. They didn't care, like, who's this, who's it not, what's the flavor. They'd put it back, they get something else. And I just thought, what if there was a salad dressing brand and a flavor that was so good and so special that people just beelined it to there, took it out, put it in their cart, bought 4 or 5, told their friends about it, and moved on? What could that do? And so that's what I did. And when I initially was trying to ask experts in the beginning, they're telling me, this is the dumbest idea ever. Salad dressing sucks. No one cares about it. The category's not big. You're not Paul Newman. You're not Hidden Valley Ranch, and you're going to be nothing. But my basic ass knowledge told me there was something more there for disruption. And I was willing to take a risk and try it. The next learning lesson: what you need to know. Prove yourself wrong. Just because it's your idea doesn't mean it's a good idea. I counsel more entrepreneurs and founders and dreamers on that single topic. They think they have a great idea, and because it's their idea, it has to be great. That is not the case. Just because you have an idea doesn't mean it's a good idea. So in the beginning stages, when I initially had this idea, everything I did was to try and prove myself wrong. I pretended that I was a brand consultant or a management consultant to myself, and I wanted to figure out whether or not this idea was good. So I went with the sole intent of proving that this idea was stupid. And so I go, clean salad dressing must exist. Great salad dressing brands must exist. Cool condiment companies must exist. And I went into the grocery stores, and I went to every grocery store there was. And they didn't exist. I couldn't believe it. It was 2009. How is this a thing? And so I kept trying to prove myself wrong. I kept giving samples to people. How good is this salad dressing really? Would you actually buy it? I went to haters that I knew would just shit on the idea. What do you think of it? They would go, God, the dressing's good. You know, you may not be able to do the brand, but at the end of the day, the dressing is good. And so in that process of trying to prove myself wrong, I was able to prove myself right. And I think what most people do is they have an idea, and in their research, they just want to prove themselves right. That's all they care about. And they ignore all the other information, all the haters, all of the potential errors in their business plan. They just want to be right. I urge you to take the other process initially and try and figure out how this thing will fail. Next field guide learning lesson: what you need to know. Be a story somebody wants to tell. I think the most interesting part of that is people think about the book, or they think about the product, or they think about the service, and they think it's good enough that it's gonna sell itself, that it's going to immediately become viral, that everybody and their mother's just going to love it because it's available. People want stories to tell their friends that are interesting and allows somebody to be a part of almost a secret or something special. And there's a interesting marketing book by Seth Godin called The Purple Cow. And the long and short of it is, if you ever saw a purple cow, you'd never forget about it. And so being a story somebody wants to tell, when you're thinking about your product, service, whatever you're doing, thinking about yourself, why is it special? 3 brothers that don't look like salad eaters, that take their mom's salad dressing recipe and are willing to turn it into a national brand come hell or high water, and are sitting in grocery stores every single weekend not taking no for an answer, is an interesting story. And the product was so good that the product reinforced the story. So then you had a cool story, interesting packaging, and a product that reinforced it all, and it became a story somebody wanted to tell. Because the dressing was good alone. And so people were going to buy it based on flavor. But then they wanted to tell people about it, because who the hell with no food experience that doesn't look like a traditional person in the natural foods world is going to just take dressing and leverage everything under the sun to bring it to the masses? That was the story, and that's why people told it. And so it ended up becoming this clean eating movement. We became a part of the momentum, and then we ended up trailblazing a lot of the clean eating movement stuff you see today. And so with the journey that everybody's on, you got to take that initial risk. You got to trust your gut. You got to trust your basic ass knowledge and don't overthink it. And then be a story people want to tell. And that is really kind of step 1 of God knows how many steps. But it will allow that journey to keep moving forward. And when you're building something from nothing, that's all you need, and that's all you want. You need forward movement at all costs. Thank you for coming for episode 2, chapter 2 of the Undressed podcast limited series. I'm Greg Vetter, the author and reader, and we'll see you next time.